Right, rolling.
This is an interview at Microtel Inn, Auburn, New York, 24th of September, 2003, approximately 3 p.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Frank Mucedola. What else did you want?
Place of birth and date of birth.
Place of birth, Severo, Foggia, Italy. May 21, 1921.
Okay, when did you come to the United States?
1922.
Okay.
September of 1922.
Where did you move to?
We went from Italy directly to Pocatello, Idaho. And we lived there for about 3 years. Then we came to Auburn in 1925.
What was your educational background prior to going into the service?
I graduated from high school.
Okay. Where were you, and what was your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
I was at a movie, and when I come out, I heard the talk on the street that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, being a young kid, I didn't bother me too much.
How did your family feel about what was going on in Italy at the time?
Well, they weren't too happy about it. My father, in World War I, had served with the Italian Army. He was with a cavalry outfit, and he wasn't too happy about what was happening over there. Matter of fact, the reason that he left Italy was Mussolini was starting his march on Rome, and he didn't like what was happening, so he decided to leave.
You still have family? Did he still have family there?
No, all his brothers and sisters are now dead.
Well, did he have the family living there at the time?
Oh yeah, at the time he had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. Yes.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I was drafted. As a matter of fact, I was drafted on my 21st birthday, June 6th, 1940. May 21, 1942.
Okay. Where did you go for your basic training?
My induction center was Fort Niagara, New York.
Okay.
And then a few days after that, I was shipped to Fort Meade, Maryland. That's where the 76th Division was being activated, and that's where I was sent.
Okay, so that's where you received your basic?
That's correct.
How long was your basic training?
At the time, I believe it was 13 weeks.
Did you receive any specialized training at all?
Not during the 13 weeks, no. After that, yes.
Okay, where did you go for any specialized?
All right, from Fort Meade, we went to 8P Hill Military Reservation in Virginia for advanced combat training. Then from there, we went back to Fort Meade, and then we were shipped to Camp McCoy, Wisconsin for winter training. And we took our winter training in Watersmeet, Michigan. That's in northern Michigan, up on Lake Superior.
What year was that?
This is 1943.
What kind of specialized winter gear did you have?
Well, we slept in one-man mountain tents, and we slept in the snow. At times the temperature was 25 below zero.
What kind of foot gear did you have?
We had shoe packs, and we had rucksacks as opposed to the regular field pack that the infantry carried.
And you wear the overcoats? Do you have overcoats?
Yes, yeah. Our gear was, our dress, I always remember, we had woolen long johns, and then we had wool pants over that, and then windbreakers over that, plus the overcoat.
Okay. All right, where did you go after your training there?
Then we went back to Camp McCoy, and then on Thanksgiving Day of 1944, we sailed for overseas from the Camp Miles Standish in Boston.
Did you go in a convoy or single ship?
No, we went in a convoy. We sailed on the ship I was on was the SS Brazil.
Okay. Where did you arrive?
We landed in England on December 4th at Southampton, in England.
And were you based there, or?
No, then from Southampton, they trained us down to Bournemouth. That's on the English Channel. That was I understand that it was rather a resort city, and we were building it in a hotel there right on the English Channel.
Where did you go from there?
From Bournemouth, England, we went across the English Channel, roughly, I'm going to say about January 4th of 1945, and we landed in Le Havre, France. From there we were trucked. At the time the Battle of the Bulge was in progress, and we received our baptism of fire during the Battle of the Bulge.
So you were trucked right into the front?
Yeah, from France, yeah.
Now, did you have your full winter gear at that time?
No, not really. We had our regular infantry stuff, but it wasn't the winter gear that we had when we were in Watersmeet.
So you had better equipment than when you were in the States
That's
training.
correct, yes.
Into
Than we
combat.
had in combat, yeah.
What kind of footgear did you have? Just your regular shoes?
We had our
or-
combat boots,
You had-
and then they gave us Arctics, to put over
yes,
that.
right.
But they weren't too adequate as far as trying to keep the feet warm. That was a problem for us because in northern France that year was very, very bitterly cold. And we went into Bastogne, but the siege had already been broken when we got there. And then we went through Bastogne a couple of days later, and we dug in Luxemburg, facing the Siegfried Line.
Okay, could you just tell us about your experiences from then on? I believe you said you were basically in action for the rest of the war then.
Right, yeah. I think I told you, I was with Company I, 304th Infantry Regiment of the 76th Infantry Division. Our mission in Luxembourg was to prevent the expansion of the German bulge, the left shoulder of the German bulge. Von Rundstedt, the German commander, Von Rundstedt, was billeted in the sector that we were in, and our mission was to prevent the left shoulder of that bulge from expanding. And we faced the Siegfried Line. During that period, we did extensive day and night patrolling. And then we finally crossed into Germany. I don't remember the exact date, but it was about, I'm going to say about February 7th or 8th. And we went into the Siegfried Line. And of course we crossed plenty of rivers, and we became one of the first outfits to make contact with the Russian army.
How did you cross these rivers? By
Well, the first river that we crossed, we actually waded across. This was February. And trying to stay warm after going across the river with water up to your neck, it was not a pleasant ordeal. And in some instances, the engineers would come up and they'd put in a footbridge, and we would cross that. We crossed the Rhine, of course, on, I guess they call them a Bailey Bridge, I think they called them. And that was our method of getting across. We either waded across, or the engineers would have to put a footbridge in for us to get across.
Now, what rank were you at that point?
I was a technical sergeant. I was a platoon sergeant of a rifle platoon.
what did you carry, an M1? Or
I carried the M1 rifle, yes. Yeah.
All right, so you basically saw constant contact until you came and encountered the Russians.
Right.
Could you tell us, I know reading this, you were injured when you met the Russians. Could you tell us about that?
We were on a daylight patrol. Our mission was, we were on a reconnaissance patrol with my platoon, and the mission was to try and make contact with the Russians. And we obviously came under enemy observation, and they lobbed the artillery in on us, and I got hit with some flying debris. Some rocks hit me in the right arm. But we did not make contact with the Russian at that during that patrol activity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, when did you eventually or finally meet the Russians?
I made the contact with the Russians about, I'm going to say around May 1 or 2, somewhere in there. I personally made contact with the Russians in the city of Leipzig, Germany.
Could you describe that? Tell us about that.
I was on a mission. I had to go to Leipzig. I don't remember what exactly I was sent there for, but I had to get something for my company. And while there, I ran into a Russian, I don't know whether you call it a Russian patrol, but in the city of Leipzig. And I always remember that that was the very first time that I ever saw a woman soldier. There were 2 Russians and a woman soldier with them, and I had the opportunity to try and take a picture with them. The girl wouldn't get into the picture, so I finally took the picture with the male soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first time that I had ever heard that there was a woman in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Were they friendly?
Yes, at that time they were, yeah, very friendly.
Did they speak, any of them speak English? How were you able to communicate?
No, we just, hey, come over here, we're going to take a picture,
Mhm,
and show them the camera, and that routine, see, but we didn't actually have any conversation,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak, no.
Did your unit pull back after meeting them, or?
Well, what we did, the 76th Division, at the end of hostilities, that is when the shooting war was over, we now ended up in what later became known as East Germany, all right? So when I think it was the Big Four, France, England, United States, and Russia, decided where the boundary lines were going to be, the 76th Division now found themselves in what later became known as East Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So they now moved us back into the western sector of East Germany, and we did occupation duty in that section of Germany for roughly, you see, the war ended in May. We did occupation duty until August, when the 76th Division finally got deactivated and all of the personnel got reassigned to other units that were slated for the Japanese invasion.
Mm-hmm.
I was left out of, rather mustered out of the 76th, and I got reassigned to the 8th Division, the 8th Infantry Division. I never reported to the 8th because in the meantime, they dropped the atom bomb. And at the time, I was in France, getting ready to come back to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and they just sent us home, directly from France.
Were you ever aware of concentration camps?
No. I never ran across any personally myself
Mm-hmm.
in my sector, no.
Did you ever repatriate any of the American POWs or
No.
encounter their
No.
camps at all?
No.
Now I noticed you received the Bronze Star. What was that for?
I received the Bronze Star with the V device. That was for knocking out an enemy machine gun nest. We were, one of the rivers that we had to cross was the Kyle River. That's K-Y-L-L. And at the time, the 76th Division was part of what they called a task force. And our mission was, the task force comprised infantry and tanks. And our mission to go across the Kyle was to form a bridgehead so that the engineers could come in and put in a bridge, and then we would be able to hold that so that the tanks could get across.
Mhm.
Prior to any attack, we would always have a briefing. And the briefing was that, and if you get a picture, they had the river was in front of us, and then there was a railroad track that paralleled the river, and then a road that paralleled that. And we were told that there was a machine gun zeroed in on the railroad track. So our attack was scheduled for midnight. So when we got across the river, the engineers put in a little footbridge in this instance, and my platoon was the point of the company, and we went across first. And when we got across the river, we ran into a German outpost, and we tried to talk him into surrendering, but he wouldn't. He'd come out shooting, so we shot him. And at that point, the machine gun opened up, and I crawled as far as I could. I saw the machine gun, the flash from an attic, and I got as close as I could, and I threw a grenade at the top of the window of the attic. And trying to throw a grenade on your stomach is a little bit rough, and the first one didn't get up there. So I threw another one, and I also didn't get up there. So I decided that, okay, I think what I'll do is I'll get a bazooka in there. So I called for the bazooka man to come forward, and he come up with a bazooka, and I got lucky, and the first shot hit the machine gun and knocked it out. And we proceeded.
Okay. Where were you, and what was your reaction when you heard about the death of President Roosevelt?
Well, I think Roosevelt died April, what was it, 18 or 20, somewhere there, during April. And we were in combat at the time. I remember when the word got to me, it was nighttime and we were advancing, and hey, Roosevelt died, and not too much of a reaction, to be honest.
How about for the Victory in Europe Day?
Well, we were very, very glad that that was over, because, as I say, we were in the camp in France. It was called Camp Philip Morris. That was all the camps in those days. They were named after cigarettes. Camp Lucky Strike, Camp Chesterfield. We were in Camp Philip Morris. And I remember I'm sitting on my duffel bag, and it sounded like a mile away. I could hear a lot of hollering, and then I saw a small observation plane dropping a lot of leaflets, and the plane is coming towards us, and the hollering is getting louder and louder and louder. Finally, when the observation plane gets over us, they're dropping all these leaves, and I picked it up, and it says Germany surrendered. Japan surrendered, or VE Day. So naturally, I joined the crowd in hollering. So, and everybody's shooting their gun up in the air, and so.
When were you discharged?
I got sent home. Remember, I said I got reassigned to the 8th
Right.
Division. I never reported to the 8th Division. Now, because all of the troops at that time were slated to go to Japan, all of the army camps, or the majority of the army camps, were closed. So now that the Japanese have surrendered, they had no place to send the troops because the army had closed. So what they did is they told us to go home and stay there until we call you. So we were sent home with all our gear. The only thing that I didn't take home with me was the M1 rifle. But everything else, my pack, my duffel bags, all of my equipment came home. And I stayed home for 75 days in uniform. At the end of 75 days, I got a telegram from the War Department to report to Fort Dix for my discharge. And that was November 20, 1945.
Okay. Did you ever make use of the GI Bill?
No.
How about the 52-20 Club?
Yes, I did take advantage of that roughly for about 20 weeks of it.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
I joined the VFW.
Or have you stayed active in
Yes,
it at all?
yeah,
or
yeah.
Okay.
I'm still a member, yes. Yeah.
Did you ever keep in contact with anyone that served with you?
Oh, yes, yes. Matter of fact, about an hour before I came here, I called one of my buddies in Oregon, Medford, Oregon, and we converse quite often. Yeah, I'm in contact with a lot of the guys, especially the ones in my platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to any reunions?
Yes, I've been to, our last reunion was in Charlotte, North Carolina, in September 4 through 7 of this year.
Mhm.
And it was our 56th annual reunion.
Mm.
And our next one is going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Next, actually the actual date hasn't been set yet. Sometimes next fall.
Okay. How do you think your time in the service affected or changed your life?
Well, I think it's made me a better person. One of the things that if you talk to a lot of the guys that were in the service, one of the things that I always liked was the discipline. I always admired the fact that if they told you to be someplace at 8 o'clock, you were there at 8 o'clock. Not 1 minute after 8, but at 8 o'clock. And that's something that stayed with me in all of my work. If I got to meet somebody at a certain time, I'm there at a certain time. And if somebody's got to meet me at a certain time and they're not, it bugs me.
Okay.
So that's why when you told me today that I was early, I'm always early. I was supposed to be here at 3 o'clock. I got here 20 minutes
Yep.
to 3.
That's fine.
Yes. Do you have any questions at all?
No?
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, or
No,
Okay.
unless you have
no?
any questions.
No, that's it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me. I noticed on your interview form that you helped entertain troops. Could you talk
Yes.
about that, please?
One of the things that I always had fun with, in civilian life I was an accordionist, and I earned my living and still do for a fact. I earned my living with the accordion. But after basic training, I sent for my accordion. My father shipped the accordion to Fort Meade, and I used to play for the hospitals, and I played for a lot of the officers' clubs, and every time that they would have a function of some kind, on the off-duty hours I'd get called to play the accordion. But one of the things that I remember when this was during basic training, or shortly after basic training, I was on a KP detail. I had to peel potatoes. So we had a pile of potatoes that was as high as this ceiling. So, and we're sitting out in the sun, and there's three or four of us guys peeling the potatoes, and they sent a runner down, and said, Mucedola said, the company commander wants you to report to headquarters immediately, because tonight they're going to have a bonfire, and he wants you to play the accordion for the troops. So I got out of peeling potatoes that day because of the accordion. So a lot of the times I would have to perform for some of the functions with the accordion. One of the USO shows that I mentioned was we were at AP Hill, Virginia, and the USO show was coming in, and they had with them the movie star Carol Landis. At the time, she was the pinup girl of the era, and so they brought in. Now the stage, you got to remember now, at AP Hill, Virginia, our billets we lived in tents, so we had no inside accommodations of any kind. So the stage was the back end of a 2.5-ton truck. So they brought Carol Landis out, and she did her thing, and I played a couple numbers in the program, and so that's probably the extent of my accordion work with the Army.
You were never able to take it overseas with you.
No, now that I was just getting
Okay.
into that now. Now we're overseas, right? We're doing occupation duties, and every month we would have what they called a company party, and they would bring in a keg of beer and a half a case of whiskey. So now some of the guys used to like to mix the whiskey with the beer, and they called them boiler makers.
Yep.
Well, I didn't drink. So now one of the guys says to me, He says, hey, Mucedola, he says, how about playing the accordion at our company party tonight? So I says, well, where the hell am I going to get an accordion? He says, well, I know where there's one. I said, where? In such and such a town. Well, such and such a town now was in East Germany. I said, well, the Russians are there now. The heck, we'll go anyway. So I said, now we got to get a Jeep to go down. Now the town was roughly about 60 kilometers away from us. So we went to the company commander and we asked him if we could take a Jeep to go get this accordion. The company commander wouldn't give us the Jeep. So we begged and begged. Finally, he let us go. He says, okay, he says, you go, but if anything happens, I don't know anything about it. Okay, so we hopped on a Jeep and it was me and two other guys, plus the Jeep driver. Now we go into the Russian territory. We finally get to the town where this guy knows where there's an accordion. So we go into the house and he talks to the owner of the accordion into letting him borrow the accordion. And he says, no, I said, I'm not going to let you take it because you'll never bring it back. Oh, I said, yeah, we'll bring it back. Don't worry, we will. So anyway, it took us about an hour. And we finally talked him into letting us have the accordion. Now, by now, it's dark. So we're working our way back to the American lines. We got lost and we ended up in a Russian camp. So we stayed in that camp for that night. And then when it got daylight, the Russian took us into their war room, I'm calling it, and they showed us the map and showed us where we're at, showed us how to get back, and we finally got back to the American lines. And now I have an accordion to play for the beer party. So that's another accordion story.
Did you have to return it? Did you return it, or?
Well, unfortunately we didn't, but that's part of another story. But anyway, about a month later, I'm sitting in the on the sill of a window. I'm like this, and I thought I saw the party that we borrowed the accordion from coming up the company street. I said, holy mackerel, I said, looks like the guy that we borrowed the accordion from. He found out where we were, see. So now I get on the intercom and I call the guy who borrowed the accordion. His name was Roger. He had a nickname. His nickname was the Leech. And we called him the Leech because every place we went, he wanted to come with us, see. So that was his nickname. So I got on the phone and said, hey, Leech, he said, remember that accordion that you borrowed? I said, yeah. Well, the guy's here after. So I hung up. A couple of minutes later, the phone rings. I got a report to the company commander. Now, the Leech is there, plus the guy that owns the accordion. The company commander says to me, Mucedola, says, you got this guy's accordion? I said, sir, what accordion? He slams his hand on the desk. He said, I'll give you 5-10 minutes to get that accordion here. So I turned around. Now, I don't know how much these other guys over there had said, so I went back, I got the accordion, I brought it to him, and away he went. So I got a lot of accordion stories. Another accordion story. This happened when we were into the Siegfried line. We got into the bunker, and in the corner of the bunker, I see accordion laying there. So I pick up the accordion, I want to play. At the time, there was a favorite tune that was very, very popular. It was called It's the Talk of the Town. That was the name of the tune. Mm-hmm. So I pick up the accordion, I play one chorus of It's the Talk of the Town inside of the German bunker, inside of this, the pillbox, the German pillbox. So I play one chorus, and then the company commander says, all right, Mucedola, put down that accordion, grab the rifle, we'll move it out. So that was another accordion story.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm glad we